Caron B. Davis from Caron B. Realty International, and another Friday. Boy, that week goes quick. Anyway, I'm very excited today. We'll be talking to Jim. Jim's sitting here with us today, Jim Schmit of Jim Schmit Architects, and I've known Jim now for 30 years, I realize, so we'll be giving our age away today with the years we've been doing business. But before we go there, you know, a lot of our talk today is going to be on views, and, you know, visualization came up in my mind when I wanted to think of something inspirational today. And, you know, visualization truly is where you can really close your eyes and think of what you want to happen in your life. And a lot of times I've used this to obtain some of my dreams and goals. For instance, many years ago, I know I wanted a condo on the water down at Diamond Head. This is when they were under $500,000. So many years ago, over 20 years ago, and I had that picture on my desk and I just kept looking at it, and guess what? It happened. So I think views are probably very inspirational too. And Jim's going to be talking about how architects change with people wanting that in their life. But let me do a little introduction for Jim first. You know, Jim's been in the business for 46 years here in Hawaii, and he's completed over 600 homes and commercial projects. In 1981, he won the award. He won the grand prize for both the Hawaii Parade of Homes and the Hawaii Renaissance competition. So I'm very excited to have Jim today. Again, we only have 10 minutes on our talks on Friday, but I'm sure we'll want to revisit Jim another Friday. But aloha, and we'll welcome Jim. Jim, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. No question about it.
No, wonderful. And, you know, I know when we were talking this week about what we were going to cover, there's so many different facets, but one of the items that came up we thought we'd focus on is, you know, what is the number one thing you are doing architecturally a lot for your clients? What are they loving right now? What are the requests you're getting right now?
Well, we've always had view lots, and the view and the visualization that you were talking about has always been a part of it. But what's happening now is people want walls of glass, not just windows and not just glass doors. So that you could bring up that picture that we were talking about.
Sure, I'll just bring it up. Is it there now, Jim?
Not yet. There it is. Okay.
Yep.
So this is a part of a project out in Hawaii Kai called Bali Lofts, and this particular one is more old style glass doors and glass windows. You can see that there are large sections of walls as well as windows on that facade there. Go to that interior picture, please.
This one here?
It's not there yet.
Oh, it should be there. It should be there now. I just changed there. Yeah.
There it is. Okay, that's the inside of that same house that you were looking at the outside, and you can see again that there's a large amount of glass, and you can see the yard and the pool and everything, but there's a lot of wall there. Now, if you go to the next one, this is what the next one is more what I'm getting requests for today.
And can you talk to me this week about how even the manufacturers of glass doors are changing? You know, how homes were constructed many years ago compared to today, based on the needs of requests. Yeah.
Okay, so this picture that you've got on the screen now, that's what we would call a glass wall rather than a door and window system. Basically, the whole wall is glass, and what makes that possible is, and this is the big difference of what we're doing now, is we're using industrial grade steel in a residential setting. You can see that there's a white I-beam that's carrying the roof load, so that the glass wall doesn't carry any load at all. And that's what the two combined are making a lot more glass, a lot easier to use and a lot safer to use. And it's cheaper also, because in reality, a wall can be as expensive as a window. And yes, you can spend ridiculous amounts of money on windows, but you don't need to get the effect that you're seeing in that picture right there. So that's pretty much the difference. And this is what we're getting a lot of requests for nowadays. And
Yeah,
yeah, go to the next picture. I think that's the outside of the same house.
yes. While we wait for it to come up, you're mentioning that, I know a lot of people out there get very concerned about, they think glass, oh my God, I can't afford it, it's still pricey. And then you're explaining to me construction walls can be more expensive because of the electrical, etc. So maybe you could explain that also.
Sure. Well, the other thing, there are a couple things that are happening in manufacturing. There's a lot of new doors and window systems online, and what they're all doing to sort of complement this glass wall concept is they're making the frames of the glass doors as thin as they can possibly make them, and even they even have frameless glass doors that are sliders. But without the frame, you've got water problems, and with the frame, you don't. But again, it still requires the steel structure so that that glass wall can still provide the necessary shear strength to keep it from collapsing under a heavy wind, for example. And it's all very, very interesting and exciting in terms of what's available. And it's also getting pretty easy to buy it. One of the new houses that we're doing that has a lot of glass and a lot of steel in it, we actually got deliveries on UPS instead of conventional container shipping. And we actually saved some money on the shipping by going UPS, and they delivered it right to the door. It's really amazing. The technology is making everything here pretty interesting. Now, the other thing that's happening in that picture is you can see on the left there's a lanai.
Yeah.
And those are also steel columns that are holding up that lanai, because you also want, when you're on your covered lanai, you want to have a view of the yard that's got minimal obstructions. So the least obstruction is a cantilever. That box above it would be cantilevered, and the secondary least would be to have a steel column that holds it up and gives you maximum view. So these two things go together. The indoor-outdoor aspect of it is kind of traditionally what Hawaii has been about, was being able to have your doors open and just walk outside, and having that transition from inside to outside be as seamless as possible. And that's, all of these projects still have that same ability. But because when it gets hot, everybody wants their air conditioning on. When you close the doors, you don't want to close off your view. That's why the glass door under those conditions is critical.
I'm sitting here listening to you, Jim, thinking, there's so many times that, I'm out there showing homes to clients and they want the flat yard for the children to play, but then the view is up, it's on a lot, an uphill lot. And what I'm seeing here is the view, the indoor, outdoor, and having that garden as being your view, and being able to have that flat garden area, or even flat neighborhood if people want to ride bikes, etc., in the neighborhood. But they're still having that feeling of a view, and it's their own garden. Which I mean, there's so many homes that I go into, and you close the door to see it, and then you have to go around the corner, down a hallway, and then you finally get out to the backyard or something. And
right.
And I believe in people's life, they just want to be able to see what they have and not have. That's where the open floor plans come in so popular, correct? Having that open floor plan. But then the next step is having this glass. Sorry?
So you've got that exactly right.
Yeah. So I just, and these homes, why don't you talk about, this was your first project back in 2010, you mentioned, when, modern homes came in and people were not really into modern homes in Hawaii at that time.
That's right. And as a matter of fact, and I'm not suggesting that this is bad about realtors, but back then, I lost your picture. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, I lost the picture, but I've got the sound.
Okay.
It's probably my computer.
Okay.
In any case, basically, somehow it dropped your Zoom portion of it. I can see it on the screen now. That's the Farmers Roadhouse, which is again an infill. The previous project you were that internal concept was inspired by a trip to Bali, where basically all of the high-end residential structures down there have enclosed yards, and also Mexico and Spain. A lot of that same type of courtyard where you open up to your courtyard. Of course, in Bali they don't have windows; they just have they have no walls, and you just walk right out of whatever room you're in. So putting the glass in is a concession to air conditioning. Anyway, this house also has a courtyard in the back, and it's got a front yard that you also look out into, with the landscaping used to give you the privacy on a busy street. I think you had some pictures of the inside of that too, I think.
Okay, yeah. That's the one of the living room I have, the open living room with.
Right.
Yeah. And the windows are very high compared to the first project you did in Hawaii, Kai Love. So you might want to comment on the high windows. They're 25 feet ceilings. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably 21 to 22 feet.
Okay.
The height of the ceiling.
And, again, how do you make it cost effective to have windows that high? You've got two sets of high windows here, I see, with a beam.
Right.
Very open and yeah.
Yeah, and it's again, it's steel. There's a lot of steel that's hidden in the walls and in the ceiling that holds that up so that the glass can go right to the roof. Normally you'd have a beam above, but the steel beam fits into the upper roof. And this is actually looking out at the corner of that lot, and that isn't the courtyard portion. That's sort of the front yard. And when you turn around and face the opposite direction, you're looking out at the pool in the back courtyard. So this is a good example of a house that's transparent in more than one direction. The Bali Lofts one, pretty much everything was directed at the interior because it was a very, very busy street out in front, and you didn't want to look at that. You didn't want to hear it. This is a Kahala residential neighborhood, and you can look out any window and have a view of your own lot and still have privacy from the vegetation and the fencing.
I remember, because I saw this home on the market a few years ago. This home actually sold a little under 5 million. And I remember the swimming pool. It had another, it had that interior, of course, the garden, but then you walked out the other side of the home and had a beautiful pool area. And Jim, this is on a pretty busy street too, Farmers Road in Kahalo. So it's like, I think you did an excellent job by having this home have its own sanctuary versus feeling another, not as busy as the first project you did, but it's not, it definitely has some traffic coming down it.
Yeah. And this is a pretty big house, and it's pretty boxy, but we actually have never had any negative comments about it as far as the neighbors or people who have seen it and have commented on it. This isn't part of what we had decided to talk about, but the boxiness of it is not a negative as long as it's broken up into components that bring it down to a more human scale. And a lot of times people don't like modernism because it's cold, and you get away from the coldness of modernism by the texture and the carpeting and opening to the landscaping. And from the outside, you have proportions that remind people of a traditional home scale, rather than you don't see the big box as fast as you see the individual components. Like the wood wall is a smaller scale, and the metal wall is a different scale, and the plaster wall is a different scale. And you see the body of the house broken up into familiar sizes so that you aren't overwhelmed by the size of the house. And that's pretty hard to do on a wide open lot.
Yeah, because what I'm seeing with your work, you've been able to do the modern home, but really put the Hawaii style of living in the home in terms of the warmth of materials you've used to keep that Hawaiiana living flair, but being a modern, but not being cold. Like if you, in Sydney, Australia, you'll get a lot of the modern homes and they're white, or if you can imagine LA or Miami, they're just very white and stark. But I don't believe that style would work in Hawaii. Would you say that? Would you agree with that? The white, the cold, I mean, they're there, but they're not on, I think, in terms of the amount of people who would go for something warmer versus colder looking right now.
Yeah, almost everybody wants it to be a warmer project. The only exception to that is people with elaborate art collections like that kind of art museum character of the old White House. Uh,
Sure.
the White House was real popular in the 80s, and I don't do very many of them now. We've done a couple in the last few years, but even then there's been a card so that you had that texture of outside becoming inside, and that minimizes the coolness on the inside.
So in terms of, I know you mentioned you've got quite a few projects going on. So where do you see this whole style going for the next, 5 or 10 years, do you feel? Using the glass and, the materials used, or, what people's living, we've mentioned with this need school work. Have you had many requests on that angle at all in the last couple of months? Are you there? Hello? Well, it looks like we might have had a disconnect here. We'll see if Jim comes back in a moment. He will come back. In the meantime, while Jim's figuring out his computer there, what I'm going to do is just share the photos of the week, and Marianne's photos, of course, the views. And just to let you know, again, we talked about views today, and breathtaking mountain and, the valley views that people love. Many homes, and you can imagine having a lovely modern home with lots of glass looking out at this every day would be gorgeous. And of course, a view like so many homes are built on ridges and valleys and want to look over the city. Again, the style of home we spoke of today would just be perfect for this situation. And even beachfront homes, a lot of glass. This is, of course, Kaneohe Bay in Chinaman's Hat area. And of course, those famous sunsets we have. And I know up in Monolani Heights, where we live, amazing skylight views right now during sunset. And again, all our beautiful nature and views. And I just wanted to thank Jim for coming today. And we'll definitely have Jim again, because he truly is out there on the forefront of architecture in Hawaii, especially Honolulu. And it was fun to have you, Jim, and thank you so much.